Marshall in the middle.
It's a good Monday morning here at the center of the universe, the corner of Ardennes and Long Street. We're here with Ranger Nate and old Captain Neil Casey here, and we're going to talk about all things, airborne related and Army stuff and all the things that are going on. It's just a chance for us old timers to kind of reminisce and think about our days on Ardennes. So, here we are. What's going on, Ranger Nate?
Whoop, you're on mute, man.
Mute. Hit that mute button, man.
Sorry about that. Here we go, man. We ain't starting off on the right track on this one. Sorry about that to our audience. Hey, we got Neil Casey here, former captain, 101st Airborne Division, Air Assault.
Air Assault.
Yeah, before we get started, Will, let's go ahead and do a shout out to Petty A. Cox Esquire, defense lawyer. If the popo's chasing you, you need a defensive lawyer. Get a hold of Penny Cox. She'll get you squared away. All right, go ahead, Will. Break it down to us, baby. What do we got on the corner of Ardennes and Long Street this morning, man?
Oh, my gosh. Penny's got some crazy stuff happening this morning, man. She called this morning. Got a call early this morning from a client. They're going to court today. Kids doing kid things, like a 13-year-old boy and a couple of his friends. They'd climb a fence and go someplace they're not supposed to. It's like boy stuff. No big deal. But, mom's all worried. And so it's interesting to see all the things that Penny handles and all the stuff that's going on. But thanks for hanging out with us. We're having a good time here at the center of the universe. Go ahead, Nate, and take an opportunity to introduce Neil to us and tell us about y'all's connection and, bring us up to speed about what's going on there.
Absolutely. Hey, so approximately about 20 years ago, I believe it was like around January 2006, I got reassigned to Bowling Green State University Army ROTC in Bowling Green, Ohio, Northwest Ohio, which is basically how my wife and I ended up in this area after I retired. But Neil was a senior. He was a senior in college, a cadet there at Bowling Green State University. Actually, he was the student. He was the student command sergeant major of our battalion. Hey. And he acted just like it too, man. PT, he was walking around with a coffee mug. And, I'm like, hey, Sergeant Major, come here, man. Because, I was still the instructor. I was like, Sergeant Major, you need to lose the coffee cup, man. I know you're playing Sergeant Major, but you got to lose that coffee cup, man, and command a little bit here.
I was enlisted too. I know what it takes.
He said, "It's Monday morning, man. I gotta sober up, number one." And it was a good time. It was a good 2 years of my career, man. I got to meet Neil and a bunch of other good guys, good girls there. Yeah. Met my wife there. My wife graduated with Neil, same class. They commissioned the same year there, 2006. So literally 20 years ago, man. I've known Neil ever since. And then he went active duty. He was a lieutenant there, did all his training, military intelligence officer, if I'm not mistaken, Neil.
Yep.
Yeah, and he had an excellent career there. Did a deployment to Afghanistan, combat deployment there with 101st Airborne Division. And Neil, go ahead and take it from there. Tell us what you do now and what you did in the Army.
Yeah, for sure. I'll kind of start from the beginning a little bit. So I'm from a little tiny town there in Northwest Ohio where Nate calls home, North Baltimore. Grew up on a small farm. It's not anymore. We were farming around 600-700 acres when I was a kid. Now it's 3,000. First in the family to go to college. I was actually planning on joining the Marine Corps when I was in high school, and my grandma invited me over for dinner one night, and she had my favorite meals sitting over on the table. She's like, "You ready to eat?" And I said, "Yeah." So I started walking over, and then she stood in my way, said, "Your dad tells me you're going to the Marine Corps and you're not going to college." And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Well, you want to sit at this table and eat my dinner. You're the first one in this family that has a chance to go to college. So you want to eat there, you got to go to college." And I went, "Well, okay." So I had to make a half right face and go down a different path. And Ended up joining the National Guard here in Ohio. Let them pay for my schooling. I didn't want my parents to have to pay for it. So enlisted, and then I think it was my sophomore year of college. My best friend Johnny King, he just retired. Nate, I don't know if you knew that. He just retired. He held every post in the state of Ohio an intelligence officer can have, and he commanded Camp Perry. That's where he retired from.
I did not know that he went all that way. Why? My God. Yeah, that's about that time, isn't it?
Yeah, he had 3 combat deployments, and now he's like a major lawyer in Cleveland.
Wow.
Yeah, old Johnny. He's too pretty for that kind of work. Yeah. So he talked me into joining ROTC. He said, man, with you being enlisted, you just show up, he'll give you an A. So I showed up, like Nate said, I kept my enlisted form. I was, 300 PT tests, but somehow I was still hungover. That summer, I remember our TAC officer, Major Long, he's like, hey, what do you do? He's like, you want to go to airborne school this summer? And I said, well, of course I want to go to airborne school this summer, sir. And he goes, all right, you sign this piece of paper here that says you got a job when you get out of college, and I'll let you go to airborne school this summer. And I went, great. I got nothing else to do this summer, so I might as well go jump out of an airplane. And so I decided to go on active duty in about 30 seconds in my sophomore year of college so I could jump out of a plane. And then, commissioned, went on active duty, intel officer, got to go on a pretty significant deployment with the 101st in 2008. It's actually 2008 was the deadliest time in Afghanistan for all NATO forces. 2009 was for the U.S., but that's because we upticked our personnel by like 80,000 that 2009. But 2008 was the deadliest year for all forces in Afghanistan. And I was with these guys right here, Task Force Eagle Assault. It was a crazy, crazy battalion, man. We had a company of Assault Blackhawks, company of Chinooks, company of Medevacs, company of Apaches, company of Kiowas. We were the first to take Kiowas to Afghanistan and use them operationally. We also had Pathfinder Infantry, Air Force CSAR, and Aussie Chinooks all assigned to us. We did like close to 80 some air assaults, mostly with 7th Group. We hit SEALs, SAS from Canada, Australia, UK, Lithuania, the Lithuanian Special Force. We did a lot of work that year, as well as covering every single medevac that came out of RC South, which was, Kandahar and Helmand. I think we averaged like 11 medevacs a day. It was a crazy time. Then I got to go to Korea later. Got to go to Korea. Loved Korea. Absolutely loved Korea. But that was a fun time. We'll get into that story too. That's where I died 3 times. Was there in 2010, 2011 when North Korea fired on South Korea and killed, I think it was 11 total, 7 military, 4 civilians, something like that, on an island in northwestern Korea, which is what caused me to go to Dunker school training without training. I just took the Dunker test. I'm not a good swimmer, and that's how I drowned 3 times in about a 30-minute period. I then got out 2012. Wanted to raise my family. Spent the rest of the time, since the Army 2012. I've been working in supply chain operations. I'm real good at turning plants around. Leaders. The Army teaches you about if the Army teaches you anything, it's how to lead people. And you don't lead from the front, or you don't lead from the back. You lead from the front. The infantry motto isn't go do that. The infantry motto is follow me. Right? I may not have been an infantryman, but I know how to lead. That's right now. I'm actually in the middle of a job hunt. I've got 3 kids keeping me busy. So, it's a full-time job being a dad of 3 athletes, and my wife, she's also an athlete and CrossFit instructor too. So big active family.
Amen.
Amen there. I know you guys are big in the fitness competition. You still doing that, Neil?
Yeah. Actually, I was one of the founding members of Kandahar CrossFit. So that's why I thought I'd wear this shirt. I was I was there in 2008 when they started up the gym. But tomorrow will be 11 weeks post surgery. I had my rotator cuff, bicep tendon, and labrum reattached 11 weeks ago. They actually tore the rotator cuff in Korea in 2010, and I did all my CrossFit competitions. And actually, when I finished tearing it a couple years ago, I started running ultra marathons. So I run a 50 miler, a 50K, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a 50K this year and maybe a 50 miler too. I just haven't decided what I'm going to get myself into.
I haven't figured out what I think about people that go run like for decades. Like I don't know where to put you. I don't like, yeah, you're awesome. But then again, I think they're just running away from their problems. They're spending hours out there just running down the dang road.
Yeah, that's what my 50 mile was 14 hours and 42 minutes of just me and myself.
Yeah, I would get so tired of myself. I would probably like chop my nose off for thinking too much about it or something. I don't know.
I was just thinking about the snacks at every 5 miles.
They're gonna give me a beef stick.
Yeah. That's one of the guys I was following as I was prepping for that first one. He's like, people think ultra marathons are running competitions. He's like, absolutely wrong. He's like, it's an eating contest interrupted by a run.
I love it.
That's awesome, man. Your cardiorespiratory's got to be top notch, man.
Oh yeah. I the other day before I had surgery, I was working out at the CrossFit gym like right before, and I'm in the middle of a CrossFit workout, and the highest my heart rate got was like 93. It was like, because it was just short spurts of work. I never had to. It never jumped up there.
I'm at 93 opening my car door, man. Come on.
Yeah, I'm at 93 trying to climb into my truck.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, look, there's something been in the news lately I wanted to kind of bring up with you.
Yeah.
So the Luttrell brothers were in the White House along with Rogan and others talking about ibogaine therapy, and there's psychedelics and things that are proven to help people that come from our background. Right. Yeah. When you're faced daily with death and dying, killing, I wrote an essay about how I spent a significant portion of my life 18 hours away from death. If not my death, somebody's death. If we got the call in 18 hours, the 82nd Airborne Division was going to go jump in somewhere. And if we're going to spend all that time and money and equipment to get people somewhere, somebody's going to die. Somebody, something. And I'll tell you that over time that can have a lot of significant emotional effects on a person's life. And it may not be easily seen. It may not be easily pointed to. It may be a pattern over time. And next thing you know, you've slipped into some kind of a funk. And they're saying that this ibogaine and these other ayahuasca and all these other kinds of things, what do you guys think about that? Are you guys in favor? And let me be the first to say that I am in a huge favor of it. I think that anything that we can do to help our veterans, and these things are proven over time to help. What do you guys think about it?
I'm all about it, 100%. I watched the signing of it Friday. Was it Friday or Saturday? No, Friday. Friday afternoon. I saw the executive order signature by the president. I was all about it, man. Anything that can help these guys, and I think there's a misconception or a misunderstanding, actually, of what it really is. It's a misunderstanding. The doctor's not prescribing you a bottle of strawberry microdot acid. Oh, take these whenever you want to get wasted or get on a psychedelic trip. That's not what it is, man. It's an enclosed area where you're monitored. By a physician, and I hear it's not a very good experience, but the aftermath of it helps your brain cells, especially for TBI. Neil, if I'm not mistaken, I'll let you get into it here in a second. I believe, Neil, you suffer a little TBI there from Afghanistan as well. I know I've been trying to help you with your VA claim there. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, I'm all for it, man. Whatever can help these guys, man. Let's get that suicide rate lower down for the depression and whatever it takes, man. It's about time. It's about time that we started looking into this, because it's been 20 years, Will. I mean, where it's really become open to everybody, post-traumatic stress. And, I wrote a book about post-traumatic stress about 7 or 8 years ago. And it's called Wake Up, You're Having Another Nightmare. And it's something that really needs to come to light. And I'm glad finally the White House and the administration's noticing it. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it myself. I think a lot of years ago, I mean, I guess if the current administration's pointing out anything, it's something that I've actually learned quite a long time ago, in that the medicines and how you take care of your body aren't the way that we're used, like not the way that we were brought up. You said I've been in CrossFit I started in CrossFit in 2007. Not that I'm saying that CrossFit and everything like that's the way to go, but what I learned through that community is that it's not about what pills you take. It's not about what doctor you go to. It's about healthy living, and it's about activity. It's about staying moving forward. And I think a lot of these psychedelics, you put marijuana in that category as well, is they have a relief to the system. It's marijuana picks, it can, it relieves stress. It has proven to do that. It's not long lasting, where I think the psychedelics have proved microdosing psychedelics has a long, exponential growth to it. It holds on longer, where the marijuana lasts for, as long as the high lasts. So I'm a big advocate for it. I think that, along the way we as Americans lost our way in how we manage our health. It used to be community driven. It used to be what was best for you. Anymore, it's about what's best for corporate America, and what's best for selling things. It's not about health anymore. And I think this administration has proven that, and I think I think they've proven that, and I think that this opening psychedelics for research, and I think that's the other thing that people may miss on that bill, is it's about research. It's not about just go to CVS and get yourself some yellow tab acid. That's not what it's about. It's about researching and seeing what it's actually capable of, because we haven't researched marijuana. We haven't researched psychedelics. We've only researched, chemicals. And I don't know about, my kids and I were watching a show the other day, and my daughter was doing some depression pill came on. She's like, why would I take that? It just sounds like it's going to depress me more than I was before I took it. She's like, that's dumb. I was like, you're 14 and you just figured that out. Keep that moving.
Amen. And then, so did you see Representative from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, and the things that he said about aliens that he saw in the skiff the other day? Did y'all see that interview in News Nation? Oh my. So first, okay, listen. So go watch the interview if you haven't seen it. I don't have it pulled up or anything, but long and short of it is he does an interview. He's in his office, and this is like the cameraman's moving the focus. I mean, this is not some pro thing that's all set up, okay? But he's a congressman, and he's sitting in his office, and he basically says, I saw things with my own eyes and heard stories in the skiff that make me go, I don't even know what to think. And he says that the American people need to know. He says that there are things that they have hovering over the ocean that are like little orbs that stay in place for like hours, like days, like a long time, longer than anything that we have. And then they'll shoot off into the space or never lands, like, shoo. And that he's seen evidence, and he's seen evidence of where they have these sonar contacts that are going exponentially faster, was the words that he said, than anything that we know about that can go underwater. Like, can you imagine something going underwater like 300 mile an hour or 800 mile an hour underwater? I don't know. But he's saying, he also says that he doesn't necessarily, so J.D. Vance, Vice President, says he believes that they're demonic. And And I mean, he said that. I mean, like, out. The president of the United States has come out in the airplane, and he said that when President Obama said yes, they're aliens, the president comes out there and he goes, I think that President Obama let out classified information. Now, I'm not saying there's aliens, but he said there's aliens, and there's lots of other people that say they're aliens, but I'm not going to say they're aliens. And so it's just so wild that we're getting so close to somebody allowing real people to know real things at some kind of level. You know, I have my former battery commander on Ardennes Street. He was Bravo Battery, 3rd of the 4th Air Defense Artillery Regiment commander. He was also my battalion commander when I was at Fort Bliss. He left both commands and worked in the Pentagon, and he still works in the Pentagon today. He is on the UAP Low Observable Task Force in the Pentagon. And I asked him some direct questions about things. And he said, let me go to my people and see if I can do an interview with you. And he came back to me after that. And basically he said, I can't talk to you. Okay. But here's what he did say. Here's what he did say for sure. Okay. He said, we are not worried about an attack from some alien. We are worried about an attack by something that another country has reverse engineered or has manipulated in some kind of way. And that's what they're all afraid of. They're afraid because I believe that we have some crashed or some left behind things, some retrievals, some artifacts that some people call donations that were given to us by these aliens maybe, but also other countries have them, right? What if the aliens also gave one to Russia, gave something to China, so that we're all working on different new concepts at the same time and developing things, you know? I tell you, it's crazy. So what do y'all think about that? Oh, also he said that one of the things Burchett said is that he goes, I don't think it's demonic because it's more centralized into these smaller areas. Like right off the coast of a couple places and some hot spots where they're seeing it, and it's not all over the place. So anyway, Neil, I see you. Yeah. Tell me what you think, Neil.
Yeah, so it's funny that you bring up Rogan around all this. There's a podcast years ago with Rogan where he talks about DMT. Now, I can't remember what that's like, dimethyl something or other, but they call it I lost it. It's like the God drug or something like that, where you take it, and it's the only psychedelic where all three of us could take it, and all three of us will see the same thing at the same time. If we all take the same hit of acid, Augie, you see purple goblins. Will, you see, the walls are melting and I'm flying. That's acid. That's shrooms. That's your typical trip, right? DMT creates a universal trip, and it's the only one that'll do it. So we all take it, and they say that they're demons, or that's what they referenced in the Rogan podcast. And it's been a while since I've done my research on it. That we all see it, and what many have said it is what you're seeing is the demons of the devil. That's what you see, because God's angels aren't on the earth, right? They're, and the demons have been cast down. So when you take that drug, it opens the portal, if you will, and I'm using other people's terms here. Opens a portal to a dimension that we can't see, and that's where those demons are. And what's weird again is it's universally, we all see it. You would all see the exact same thing at the exact same time. And it's, I find the correlation, that correlation to be very close. Are they aliens? Are they aliens? Are they demons? I think that it's not us to decide yet. We don't know, and we got to keep asking those questions. And, is there something out there? We're here. How can there not be somebody else? How can they not be here thousands, millions of years before us and have technology that can transport through space? I'm not saying I believe, but I also not saying that it's impossible. I think that's the intel officer in me won't allow me to commit to anything. But you know, I sure can make a statement that sounds like I'm you know, again, intel officer, right? You can sure sound like you believe yourself.
One thing that all these leaders have in common is nobody has said, no, there is not.
Right.
That's one thing, one big, huge thing that they all have in common. Nobody's ever said, no, there is not. Instead, you hear, well, I can't unleash classified information, or he or she has just really unleashed classified information, so I need to take care of that. I demand that, and I'm talking about President Trump, I demand that the Department of War release all documents supporting life beyond Earth. It's there. I believe it's there. I don't know how you can have thousands of years ago the technology to build these pyramids in the Middle East, and then have the same exact technology where these human beings have never confronted one another ever, and at least historically. You can have the same structured logistical evidence on the other part of the world, on the western part of, you know, civilization down south. I'm talking Central and South America. I mean, how do you quantify that, man? You know,
Well, the Egyptians had electricity.
I'm sorry.
The Egyptians had electricity. They found prehistoric. I don't know what you call it. It was before Christ, but they found that the Egyptians had electricity. It wasn't, you know, it likely, terms they used, likely was not enough to run a street light or something like that, but it was used for probably religious practices, or to, like, you know, to show, you know, as a trick or whatever, something. But again, when I remember last reading about, you know, those, or seeing about those batteries that the Egyptians had created, like, you don't just randomly put that stuff together. Like, I guess maybe I didn't live at 500 BC and I don't see that how they would randomly do that, but it seemed like somebody had to show them, like, this is how you connect this together. This is how you create that circuit.
Right.
It just seems odd. It just seems odd. I agree.
That, and also, like, inside the pyramids, both in Egypt and in Mexico and other parts of Central America, they have the same, like, paintings of the same origin of beings. You know, I just find it odd. I find it very interesting. To be honest with you, I really hope we do. I hope our government, maybe perhaps other governments, come out and just say, yes, here's our evidence. Here's what we found throughout decades ago, this and that. I don't know about Area 51. For some reason, it's a message for everybody. I mean, you know, but yeah, I've always been a big fan. My wife and I both been big fans of, like, you know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You know, and when I was a little boy, my mom and dad took me to see it, and as a little boy, I was kind of bored with it. But then once I got older, I started watching it more and more, and I'm like, wow, you know, this is cool stuff, man. You know, stuff like that. You know, I like you said, you're ignorant to think that we're the only beings, and life on Earth is the only factor in the universe or surrounding universe, solar systems that exist, you know, in this world, God's world, or however you want to describe it. You know what I'm saying?
You want to ask Dad next time you see Mom and Dad, Nate, ask Dad about when he was up in John's cabin, which is, you know, up there near Mackinac, and they were sitting out around the fire one night, and he said that 4 or 5 orbs of light just came overhead, and he said they didn't move like a plane, because a plane can't go 30 miles in the span of a second and then stop and then change directions. He said there were 3 to 5 is the number that comes to my head, that they were up there for like 45 minutes. And then he said it was just gone. And he told me, almost ashamed at the fact that he was saying it because he's like, he didn't believe himself that he was seeing what he saw.
Yeah. No, yeah. Next time I see your dad, I'm going to ask him about that.
Yeah.
I like hearing the stories. I really do, because it's like, a lot of people are like, oh, here we go. Another UFO, another ghost story, but you know what? I believe in that kind of stuff, man.
Yeah. And I will say, again, the intel officer in me, I got to give both sides every story, right? One of the reasons why Trump and others may not be able to talk about aliens is, you confirm their non-existence by confirming technology that we have that we don't talk about. I think early, back in Area 51 in the early 50s, late 40s, 50s, and into the 60s, many of what people were calling UFOs was the U-2. So, like it has been confirmed as the U-2. Now it only explains like 20% of what they were seeing in the 20s or 40s, 50s, and 60s. It doesn't explain everything, but it does explain some. So if Trump was to come out and say, hey, there are no aliens because we have, this heartbeat technology that the CIA uses to find a downed pilot from space, like nobody knew about that till it happened, right? So, there are technologies that we can't speak of. And I can confirm that there are technologies that we can't speak of, and that by disproving something, you prove something else.
That's a good point. That's a perfect point. Well, we missed you there for a second, but what Neil was saying was a good point of, there might be a reason why leaders in our government can't say yes or no on the alien or life other than Earth, because of the technology that we've earned or we've gained from them, perhaps, or
just organic growth.
Yeah, just everything, man. I mean, think about it. We went from the basic telephone to the television, and nowadays I can grab my cell phone, have it, off to the distance, and mention something about clothes or something that I want to go to the mall or not mall, but go shopping for. The malls are almost extinct now, but go shopping for or something. Next thing you know, bam, it's all over my phone, man. Just the technology has risen so much in the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 decades. We went from the Commodore computer to look what we're doing right now, clear as day. I can see all 3 of you clear as day. I can hear every one of you clear as day. It's crazy, man. Imagine trying to do this 50 years ago, man. It just happened in a blink of time like that, man.
Yeah.
Talk to us, Will. What you got, bro?
Oh, you're talking about us doing this, right? I'll never forget me and my next door neighbor when I was at Fort Polk in 1999, 2000. 2000
JRTC,
2001.
baby.
Yeah, we were at JRTC, and my next door neighbor and I were trying to play a computer game together at the same time. And he lived in a duplex. And so I ran a wire to my computer out the window around the thing and into his house. Right. And so he could sit in his house, right next to my house. It's the same dang house, but anyway, so we've gone from this to now we're doing, it was wild thinking about how far we've gone from holding a can up to your ear and talking into it, which was what we grew up doing. That was our massive. I remember seeing my dad on a CB radio. Right. Yeah. He had a big, huge antenna at the top of the house.
Oh, yeah.
And he would talk to people, and he had him a little handle. And I mean, that was the early, chat rooms and the early internet. I am excited about the things that we have that are showing up. Okay. Yeah. And let me tell you why, right? If I'm a spiritual person, then I have to believe that I have to look at everything with the joy that the Holy Spirit provides inside of me. And I can't let something that I don't know about worry me, right? I have to let the people that are appointed above me do the things that they do and give them the trust, And the more I look at a lot of things about our country, the more I realize that we have been lied to for decades.
Yeah.
About what the real truth is. And if the only thing that they've really, really sold us is that they don't give a shit about us, because they say we're all full of freedom, but I mean, we can't even drive down the road without. I watched a thing today how now they have cameras that they're setting up on the side of the road so they can peer down into your car from an angle to see if you're wearing a seatbelt or holding your cell phone, and they're going to start fining you for. It's just, it's really wild how far they go to keep us safe and all the kinds of things, and we regularly give these people that have lied to us for decades all kinds of power to keep doing what they're doing. I drove from Marianna, Florida to back to Headland, Alabama last night after one of my friends' dad's memorial service. And we went there and you know what I started looking for was those flock cameras on my way back. You could see them on the side of the road all over the place. Or many times they're standalone units. They look like a light pole that somebody's put out there, but they don't have the generator, don't have anything really because they're solar operated and they're connected to the grid and the internet, and they're watching you for everything. And a cop can sit next to the camera station and plug into it, and they'll give a license plate reader and just as he's just sitting there, nothing to do. And so every license plate that comes by, he goes, oh, look, there's Joe from Illinois. Oh, look, there's a Susie from Hartford. Oh, look, and next thing you know, it's just weird that we're doing those kinds of things. What do you guys think about that?
I think Penny's those young recruits that Penny was called you about this morning. They're climbing fences. I think they need to do more of that stuff. I just Nate knows where I grew up. We weren't going to have any of that stuff. You don't have to be the fastest. You just can't be the slowest, right? At the end of the day, I look at all this stuff as we're Americans, and the American idea started a long, long time ago. I don't say the Greek Empire never ended. It was adopted by the Romans. The Roman Empire did not implode. It grew to an idea that is now America. In my belief, it is a, have we improved since those eras? Yes. But, the Roman Empire did not fall. The Roman Empire grew to the point that it was now multiplied. It was duplicated elsewhere. And I think that's what we experienced, I think at the end of the day, when it goes too far, think about all the things that have gone too far in this country over the last 5 to 10 years. You start to see them erode away. It's always like it's that pendulum swing. It goes too far one way, and everybody goes, "Oh, we don't want Skynet. Let's bring it back." And then it'll go too far the other way. And before you know it, eventually you're up and down, and you're where you need to be. But you can't figure out where you're supposed to be until you explore the edges. The edges of reality, the edges. Oh, back to the psychedelic stuff. I didn't mean that. The edges are where you determine your left and right range stakes, right? Left and right limits, and then you're best to stay in the middle of your limits. And I think that's a lot of what we're experiencing, whether it's from, the psychedelics that we've just talked about, people having that conversation about government secrecy, like shit. They have a Yelp system in areas of China where your personality is graded. And if you get to a certain point, a certain low level, you can't get a job, you can't use public transportation. And there's hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people in that area of China that are living on the street because they can't get a place to work. They can't find housing because their Yelp score is too low. And so we will go that far, maybe not that far, but we will go further before, the American idea, the American people. We're at the end of the day, we throw tea in the arbor. At the end of the day, that's what we do. We don't listen to people. I had when I was in, was it the career course or when I was in Kandahar? I don't remember. It was, it was a foreign officer that I was working with. He's like, why everybody hates Americans? And I was like, because he was a good dude and I was able to talk with him. I was like, no, why, man? He's like, you guys don't understand the word no. Like everywhere else in the world, you're told not to do something. You don't do it. Like if your leader tells you don't protest in the streets, they don't protest in the streets in some of these areas. In America, they say, don't you protest. Oh, fuck you. Watch me protest in the street, man. I think us as Americans, we forget that we're a warring people. We're a people that doesn't like to be told what to do. And the American way of life is such that. And I think, eventually we'll go too far, and eventually that'll get corrected.
Right. The technology thing, though, some people say we should slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that. There's like the AI stuff with you see the robots running down the road and, having, marathon competitions and all that's great, man, But I do believe, though, it really is strong for our military, because what I just witnessed in the last 7 to 8 weeks in Afghanistan, well, I'll even say just the first 6 weeks, because we've been on this phantom ceasefire here, which is probably going to end here. I don't know, within 4 to 8 hours is going to be interesting, but that's another subject. But to see what we have accomplished in 6 weeks against Iran is just unbelievable. Well, what our technology has become. Yeah. Here's a thing right here for you. In our lifetime, we may never see a war again with infantry soldiers on the ground fighting it out behind berms, shooting bullets at each other. I don't know, man. We may never see that again in our lifetime.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Nate, we're at war right now with China. This isn't about Iran. This isn't about Russia. This is an opportunity to take ground where our enemy has already taken it. Like Russia is, let's call it what it is. Russia's getting their ass kicked by a half-funded, half-trained force, and it's not even close. It's not even close. Like, there is no way. I studied the Russian military, and I studied, that was part of what I had to do. And when that war kicked off, I thought, shit, this is going to be 2 weeks tops. They say 4 days. I see that 2 weeks tops, and this is going to fuck Europe up, because now you're going to have Russia expanding, friends with China, who's ready to go after Taiwan. Oh shit! But here, those the Wolverines go blue. The Wolverines are like, they're kicking their ass. This shouldn't even be close. So what do you do? What do you do when your enemy's down and they don't have their supply routes running? You go after them. So you attack more of China's supply routes. You attack more of the way that they get their goods. You attack their financial system, and that's what we're doing. And that's what's wars will be fought in the economy in the next 20 to 50 years more than they will be fought on the ground.
Yeah, 4 years, Russia, 4 years.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I was with you, man. I was like, yeah, this might be about a 72-hour war here, man. You just think about Russia. We were raised to fear their military, not fear it to the point where, but as an adversary across, number one adversary across the globe, we're like, Russia, God dang, fuck, they're going to destroy Ukraine in a matter of days, man. 4 years, bro.
Yeah.
It's been 4 years. They can't accomplish shit. They can't even get more ground.
Right.
And then, so Russia, China, North Korea, they're watching what we've done, what we did to Iran.
We took out the president of Venezuela in the time it takes you to have a pizza delivered. Like, think about that. Yeah. I could have ordered from Domino's, and we would have taken out that president faster.
Yeah. And the whole world's watching.
Yeah. I woke up that my mom and dad came down that they came down for, I think it was a wrestling match that day. And I was talking to Dad. I was like, Dad, you don't even know. He's like, oh, it's big. It's exciting. I was like, yeah, it is. But you don't understand. Like, what they did in Venezuela, the combined ops, I can remember doing combined ops air assaults with the Navy SEALs, 7th Special Forces Group, 3rd Special Forces Group, all those, like, combined arms. Like, we had Air Force Preds. We had CSAR standing by. We had Pathfinders out in a cordon, gunships stacked from 50 feet in Kiowas all the way up to Predators at 30,000 feet and everything in between. And that was a massive undertaking. Now you're talking about coordinating naval fires, all, like moving through air defense. Our helicopters taking out ADA. That's crazy. It's that what happened. The rest, there's a reason China hasn't stepped up and said anything about what's going on in Iran, because they're going, oh, fuck, dude. Like, oh, fuck. Like, what is it? China, I think at one point in time, the largest army in the world, they didn't even have enough weapons to supply them because they thought they didn't need them. 2 people, 1 weapon. And when one goes down, the other one can have it.
Yeah, their Navy's still larger than ours, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, as far as like our technology compared to what they have on the seas, it's like, you know, apples to oranges, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, China's going to stay back a little bit and keep their mouth shut. And oh, by the way, you know, President Trump's going over there, I think next month here, May 20th ish, somewhere around there. He's going to talk to the old Gigi there and tell him he better just stay on his P's and Q's and sit back, keep his mouth shut, and quit jacking around with the United States farmers. And you know, it's just, this is a show of force. It's almost like Desert Storm.
Yeah.
Neil, I'm sure you were a lot younger then, but I think you remember Desert Storm. I was 18, right out of high school, and I was over in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and all that. But I tell you what, man, that was a show of force back in the day to show the Soviet, you know, the former Soviet Union. You know, Soviet Union had just collapsed at that point. That was kind of the show of force. Well, now fast forward 30-some years later, here we are doing it again, but this time on steroids, man, like the world's never seen before. Yeah,
that's well. I was saying, our Navy. I joked in this with a friend the other day. Is like we've got the world's largest Navy sitting in the Gulf of, you know, sitting in the Persian Gulf right now, and the other half of it's still around, is spread across the world. You know, like what is it like the Coast Guard is like the fourth largest. The U.S. Coast Guard is like the 4th largest Navy in the world, maybe 3rd, because I think Iran was up there.
Yeah, they said that. I know Pete Hegseth recently said that only 10% to 15% of the armed forces of the United States are even in the Persian Gulf right now. That's kind of whether that's true or not. I'm not calling him a liar, trust me, but you know, hey, that's one hell of a PR thing there to tell the world, hey, you know, 10 to 15% of our military is in the Middle East right now. That's it. Yeah. I mean, if you're North Korea and you hear shit like that, you might want to just sit back a little bit, man, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's interesting what we're doing with the high ground up in space and with the moon. Do you think it's good that we're ignoring the treaty that we signed years ago about not weaponizing space, or are we ready to put our space rocks up there and blow the shit out of anybody that comes up towards the moon?
Will, honestly, I don't think we have a choice, because China's been pushing this program for probably over a decade now. I mean, their goal is to get there. And
okay, but why? So let's talk about this for a second. Why is China a threat? China hasn't attacked us. China is not blowing us up. China's stealing our technology, but there's never been a history that China has come over to the United States and killed Americans.
No, not at all. What I'm saying is, when it comes to the race itself, they're balls to the wall. They've been balls to the wall, and the United States just had to step up and show them, hey, not on our watch. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to pass us. You're not going to surpass us in space. You're not going to dominate space, because I believe once a nation, the technology that we're at nowadays, once a nation has control of outer space, the moon, a space station on the moon, the satellite technology, once they control that, we're doomed down here. It's just going to expand, man.
Okay, so what if you grew up and you were a Venezuelan? Would you worry about whether America or China or whoever got to this, you know, like if you were to historically look at who's the most peaceful people in the world about taking care of things and doing stuff and having technology, you know, is it the U.S.? It's already proven they'll go to blow the shit out of people with a nuclear bomb, or is it maybe somebody from Ecuador that maybe had never fought nobody? Who do we want to have this technology? Are we the right people to have it?
I think the question you have to ask, Will, is what is the intent and what is the aftermath of those conflicts? You know, yes, after World War II, we stayed in Europe and we stayed in Asia. You know, after Vietnam, we stayed in Asia. Our president, what is it, like 80 some? I can't remember. It's a big amount of countries that we're in. and many point to that as the American version of colonialism. And I very much push back against that. I very much get back against that, because once our soldiers take up place in an area that we have, that we've seized, or whatever the word you want to use, like, we don't control, we don't tell them how to use their government. We use that as a launching point for further exploration, further defense. And, we support the people in that area. If you talk to some people in Okinawa, they might complain about some Marines and the Navy for some of the antics they get into. I know that was true when I was in Korea. Soldiers do soldiery things, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, what has the American government done? What has America done in Korea? When Korea, I lived in Seoul in 2010, 2011, and it was the cleanest, nicest, most technologically advanced place I'd ever seen. And it's still true. I think they're like the most, I think outside of like, what is that place in Saudi or whatever, UAE. But anyways, but they've been, their country was brand new, essentially. They got to start all over in the 1950s, and we helped them build that. Now they're like a top world economy. Same thing with Japan. The Toyota production system started TPM, or just in time, whatever you want to say. If you look back and you look at, actually, I think I read it in McChrystal's book, where he brings up Deming and other people. Anyways, he points to the fact that the Toyota production system was just them monitoring the U.S. Army, going, well, they seem to know. Dress right dress is the same thing. Like, in lean terminology, to me in corporate America, dress right dress is just 5S. Put things where they belong. That's one. It's funny. I'm sorry, I'm trying to just in topics here, but people are like, oh, when I started in the corporate world, like, how do you know anything about this stuff? It's like, I just use different words. The military is just corporate America. We just produce a different product. But back to that, the difference between China's exploration and China and other areas is, what do they do with the area when they get it? Eastern Europe, Eastern Europe, where, that turned into former Soviet bloc countries. Those countries are still shit. They're still shit. The people still don't have food. And, that's Russia's legacy. What happens when China takes over a place? Their legacy is pillaging the area of everything that they have and bringing it back to the motherland. And fuck it. That's kind of their approach. And I think that's the difference. People don't see China overtly taking action. That's because they do it in their fake cookbooks. And they steal, they lie, they cheat. That's just what has to happen. That's just what they do. Those are their tactics. Ours are Blackhawks and Apaches.
We've spent so many years building up other nations, protecting other nations, building up their economy, building up their cities, building up their technology off the U.S. tax dollar or taxpayer dime, that recently, probably in the last 10 years, and you kind of know where I'm going with this, we've taken that back.
Yeah.
We're taking it back. And lo and behold, and I told this to Will not too long ago, Will and our other buddy there, Ray, don't be surprised here after all this Iranian conflict is ceased and done, which I predict is going to be pretty damn quick. Don't make no mistake about it. I don't foresee us having the percentage of military power in Western Europe like we did a year ago. Yeah. I really don't, after what we just witnessed when the NATO turned their back on us, man. I mean, it just, don't be surprised. Right now, that's a story for the near future, but don't be surprised when the commander in chief comes out here in the next month or before the summer's over, and you start seeing redeployment of military installations in Germany, Italy, Vicenza, Italy. And watch some military installations that were shut down under the Clinton administration here in the continental United States rebuild. Fort Ord, Fort Dix. Watch these bases come back, man. Watch the 7th Infantry Division come back to Fort Ord, California. watch the 3rd Infantry Division re-transplant themselves up at Fort Dix or wherever, you know, they were originally at. You know, be surprised what's going to happen here in the near future. I really do predict.
Amen.
And I think you're going to see some of that redeployment to Carg Island. You're going to see that, if I'm saying that right. I feel like there's like 6 different ways I've said that.
No, I think you're right, Carg. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. You're going to take elements, you know, from Vincenza, and you're going to establish them in the Marine Corps are going to establish a footprint in the former IRCG area on Carg Island. Augie, I about texted you a couple of weeks ago. I was like, when 82nd just got put on notice, we're gonna see some flowers in the sky here pretty soon. You know, I literally saw D-Day happening. Literally saw 82nd jumping in, the Marines hitting the beach, and you know, I still think that that's going to happen. To be quite honest, I still think that's what it's going to take to end it. Is that you can't. Air assets cannot win a war. It takes boots on the ground. And that's what I saw with an aviation unit. The Cars I-12 are in place for a reason. And I'm very well aware of why the Cars I-12's there. And it wasn't because we had boots on the ground. It was because we were sitting in the air blowing stuff up.
Yeah, Will and I were talking exactly that. I've talked to Will about this for the last couple of weeks now, about the 82nd Airborne Division's mission. We don't know what it is. But if I had a prediction, it would be an airfield seizure on Carg Island, the Marine Corps hitting the beach to secure that island, because there's a reason the 82nd Airborne Division is still sitting in Kuwait right now prepping. And, oh, by God, I'll guarantee you they are preparing. They have trained in theater for whatever's about to happen, and it's just going to be the president making the call. Okay, Operation such and such taking place, time now. I think we're going to see it this week, man. I don't know. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen within the week, because Wednesday is the end of the ceasefire. Yeah. And right now, from what they're saying on the news right now, Iran's not playing. They're not playing the negotiating game. I know the vice president and the 2 other negotiators, his son-in-law and the other guy, they're already headed towards Pakistan as of today. If I'm not mistaken, they're already en route. If they're not already in the Middle East, I think. But imagine them showing up and Iranian leadership's not going to show up. Oh, man. Woo! That ain't going to be pretty, bro.
Yeah. I think that I agree that it's not going to be long. And one of the things that I really appreciate recently are the statements that are coming from the President of the United States through his Truth Social. He's talking about things. He's putting out good information. Yeah, he goes a little overboard sometimes, but you know, he's saying real things, right? It's not like some other presidents, they get up there and they say things or they don't even show up. But you know, it's a bunch of bullshit and lies. Trump, there's no way he's lying. He's just freaking right there. You know, if you don't do this, I'm going to blow you up. And he's been blowing people up. And you know, Iranians have choices. They have choices as a country and a leadership. And I applaud our president and our Secretary of War and our leadership for what they're doing. I'm not saying they're saints and they've made every proper decision and everything, but I tell you what, they're fulfilling my vote and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. The right thing's called the right thing, not the easy thing. That's something I tell my kids all the time. Just because you know, you don't go to fun either. You go to work. So go work. You know, that that kind of all boils to the same message. Work doesn't have to be fun, and the right thing doesn't have to feel like the right thing often hurts. The right thing doesn't often feel good, because it's why it's called the right thing and not the easy thing. And you know, it sucks to see, you know, our peers, our brothers and sisters getting hurt, killed, things of that nature. I get it. I've been there. I've seen it. I've done it. I got the shirt. I got the shirt that says so. But at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. You know, we enjoy, as Americans, we enjoy freedom. The world enjoys freedom because of us and our brothers and sisters are willing to say, no, fuck you. I got this. I got this. And, do I secretly wish somebody would knock on my door? Maybe. This time it's going to be a lot different if somebody knocks on my door. but at the end of the day, that's what we signed up for. That's what they signed up for. We know when I raised my right hand, actually, I was the first full basic training class at Fort Leonard Wood post 9/11. And it was like, Augie, as the drill sergeant, you'll enjoy this. Day one, we're going to break it down. Red phase is this long, white phase is this long, blue phase is this long. You guys are OSIT as combat engineers, and then AIT is this long. We're at war. You get 16 weeks of red phase. No passes, no, we got I had probably got to call mom and dad 10 times maybe in that 16 weeks. And it was just, I'd never seen it rain inside, but I sure got to see it rain inside a couple times at Fort Leonard Wood.
Wow. Thanks for your service. Thanks for signing up. It's an interesting thing to think about, the things that bring us to our service and the sacrifices we are willing to give. And when we do it, many times we don't realize what we're doing. We are not thinking about it in a way that maybe now we think of it as, after all the things we went through, all the harrowing, jumps out of an airplane, or run down Ardennes, or doing any of the crazy things we did, reacting to ambush and, in Afghanistan, or all the little crazy things that we prepared for and did. Neil, did you have any kind of situation where I have a day that I call the worst day of my life, when a plane crashed and we had a bunch of casualties at Pope Air Force Base? Did you have some time in the service that you had a rough day?
Yeah. So actually Korea was kind of a rough day. So I still remember it. Sarah showed up to Korea the day before. It was mid-November. She showed up to the day before. Her and I, we hadn't seen each other in 5 months. She had a miscarriage a couple months before that. So it was first time seeing each other, after the miscarriage, and, just seeing her. And then we had an O-plan brief down at Osan Air Base, being the head, the S2 for the assault battalion, for the 2nd ID. I had to go to that. And I had my leave that was approved as soon as I got back from the O-plan brief. We're sitting in the theater in Osan, and somebody, Brigade 2 or 3, whatever, XO is up there yapping. And the brigade warrant officer, the brigade intel warrant officer just walks down the center of the aisle. And I did that to my commander. And he's like, "What?" I was like, "That's the intel warrant." He goes, "Oh." And he goes right over to the colonel and whispers in his ear, like, "Sir, go warm." I was like, "Make the call, warm the Blackhawks up. We're going home." And no shit, brigade commander stands up. "Hey, we just got word North Korea just fired on South Korea. It was 11 or 12 people died. Go home. The briefing's over. Go home. Draw weapons. Airplane, or get all your get ready to go." We were ready to go, and I'm sitting here going, "Fuck." My wife just showed up. She just showed up, and then it was it was a note. People don't realize how close we were to re-engaging in the Korean conflict. It was I can tell you that I had a weapon drawn, gas mask ready to go, rucksack sitting out, IBA, everything ready to go. And Sarah's across the street in the BOQ, and just watching whatever's on the USO. And it was just then she was there that whole freaking time, it was just nasty, man. It was and all I kept thinking, and you have those shitty thoughts, man, I just want to fight. Let's make this thing happen. But then you're like, shit, if this happens, now I got my wife here, and then all these other people that don't deserve this kind of crap. But it was just, and it was too, and that's actually that scenario. That's what got me killed, if you will. We had to fly out to the island, and our brigade, or my battalion commander, Aaron Gilbert, who's a cool dude. He'd spent all his time in the 160th and came out just to get command time. great dude, one of the best officers I ever served for. And yeah, he's like, to fly over water, you got to go to dunker training, and you got to fly over water tomorrow. He's like, so you're not taking the training, you're taking the test. And that led to it's something I talk about all the time. I don't know if you've ever done dunker. It is miserable, absolutely miserable. When you have to, I could get in and out of the Black Hawk with no air, but when I would take that 2-pound air bottle, I'd shoot water down my lungs. And I can remember looking at that rescue diver, because they told us before we go, if you're starting to struggle, you just got to go. Let yourself drown, because they said what'll happen is if you don't, you'll flail, you'll get scared, you'll rip somebody's air hose. They save themselves and don't save you. And I can remember looking at that motherfucker, and he looked at me, and I can still see his eyes, and he went like that, and I just went, and all I remember is him going like that and me going, well, this is what they said to do. And I just opened my mouth and just let it all rush over me and take me over. And so that now, then I don't remember anything. And this happened 2 more times. I don't remember anything. And all I can remember is just throwing up water on now the bottom of a Black Hawk. And I guess I found out what happens. They just throw you out of the water. And when you chest lands, that's the chest compression to get your heart going again. And I'm surprised I didn't have any broken ribs. I had massive bruising. And then, but then what sucked is I'd turn around, having died and been brought back to life. And I look around, and the other guy that's doing it with me, who's another one of the company commanders, who was a Marine recon, for in every scuba rating you can have in the military. And then my battalion commander, who did dunker 4 times a year in the 160th, they're all just still swimming underwater, having a good old time. And I'm half dead, trying to breathe and get my heart going and then they pop out and they're like, did you make it? And it's like, nope. And they're like, guess you do, get to go again. And I did that 2 more times. And when I finally made it through, I looked at my commander. Oh, the last time, he goes, Casey, if you don't get it this time, you're done. And I was like, sir, I'll keep going until I get it. He goes, I know. And that's why you get 1 more shot. He's like, your brain has been avoid of enough oxygen today. You get 1 more shot at this. And I didn't take that puff of air. I just shoved that bottle in my mouth, and I swam across that Black Hawk to get out of it. And I was still half delirious and seeing because my vision was like that. And that was just a crap day, man. It was just but it wasn't a crap day that day. It was that I haven't gone a day without thinking about it since it happened. That's because I was dead. Had somebody not intervened, I wouldn't be having this conversation today. And that's it's hard to fathom that sometimes. It's hard to, it's just hard. You were that close. And I think, go back to it. That's, we in the military, especially those that have served in combat areas or done some crazy shit. You don't have to be in combat to have done some crazy shit in the military. That, we're forever changed, and you don't get to not think. That's what I think people don't understand about PTSD. They think about well, you took the pills, you've talked to the person, you've done all these things, and you were better last week. Why are you bad today? Because I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice in the matter some days. And that's back to those psychedelics and those things that we're not allowing research to happen on. What is it? 2 doses of that. I can't remember that. What Joe spoke last week, 2 doses of that stuff, 90% success rate. That's big. I see, if you guys because I still struggle, I'm in therapy. But this Friday, I actually go see this, it's called reflexology. I don't know if you've ever heard about it. It's like reprogramming your nervous system. And I know, Joe, you guys might be able to try it. Take your palm. I can't do it anymore because I've had and you press in the middle of your palm just slightly. And do you feel anything in your jaw? And you can try both hands. I would, no joke, could squeeze my hand and my mouth would do this. And it would open up. And this chick had started messing with my nervous system. Basically what happened is my flight or fight response turned on, probably in Kandahar, and it never turned off. It's never turned off. And she started, and it's super soft touch stuff. She down my back. on my chest. The first time I went in, she's like, just a diagnostics thing. She's like, all right, I'm going to touch your chest and I'm just going to take my hand. And she did it to herself. I'm going to start here with both hands. And I'm just going to go up and down your arm about that speed. She goes, one of three things are going to happen. You're going to hit me, you're going to cry, or you're just going to yell. And she's like, if you hit me, try to stay out of the portrait. You know, like she was good humor, sense of humor, but no joke. She put her hands on my chest and went up. And as soon as she got to my shoulder caps, just started bawling. Like not tears, but I was crying. It was just dry cry and absolutely crazy. I thought this was some witch doctors. It was crazy. A couple of weeks later, this was right before Christmas. Sarah's doing, like, she gives us homework, and Sarah did this stuff on my back and my body just started twitching. Like, I still do it a lot when she's doing my body, my whole body will twitch, and it's the nervous system reacting to the treatments. Well, Sarah did this thing, and about halfway through the treatment, my eyes closed and it was just tears pouring, stuff draining out of my sinuses. And I ended up sleeping 36 hours of the next 48. And it was crazy. Like, it was the craziest thing. I still don't believe that it happened. But it was, back to this stuff, back to treatments and back to the crazy stuff we have to do. Like, it's more than just talking to somebody. It's more than just, it's more than just a pill. Like, we need that research in the psychedelics, because imagine where we'd all be had somebody said, okay, yeah, right at, like, you get some fucked up things. Here's some low dose psychotics, psychedelics, along with this therapy that helps your nervous system. And we're going to treat you with a therapist. Like, what I've been able to do with my therapist since I've seen that chick is, I've taken 3 years of therapy done in the last 9 months. It's absolutely nuts. And I think not a lot has been said, and a lot hasn't been done outside of the non-standard forms of recovery.
One of the things that and thanks for sharing your experience, I really appreciate that. One of the things that I think is important is that we have finally found a way to non-destructively treat some of our folks. Like, even if we gave them a sugar pill and said, hey, this is going to help you, I'm going to tell you about 60%, 50-60%. If you do it right, it'll help them, because there's the folks that want to get better. But I'll tell you, having been through some of the therapy, like, one of the things that I did, I listened to Rogan a lot, and I love the folks that he talks to, and there are guidelines out there to be able to get the understanding of the drug and what can help you, and you can put yourself into some of the therapy type of sessions. And I will tell you that there is a lot of benefit for, Joe calls it letting your ego go, and seeing things from a different perspective. And I tell you, that helped me a lot. And that's what this Ibogaine supposedly does. It puts you in a situation where your body doesn't really move that much, but your mind is busy. And somehow these things talk to each other, and you're able to work out things and get told things, like there's a kind of mushroom called golden teacher that, and it feels like you're being taught somehow from inside. And they say that's kind of what Ibogaine does. And you come out of it seeing a different perspective on things. That, I tell the story about, one of the things that I dealt with, I was a very, very, very strong Christian, and I deployed to Kosovo with the 82nd on an emergency deployment. And also, when I got over there, I had a bad toothache. I mean, a bad toothache. And I was beating myself up, like, well, Holy Spirit, how in the world, and why am I sick? What's going on with all this? And then all of a sudden, when I reported it to my higher, next thing you know, they realized that 4 tenths over from me, they had just erected a dentist office, and all of these dental assistants were sitting around with absolutely nothing to do. And next thing you know, I show up with my root canal needing to be done, and all of a sudden I became their miracle. I became the thing that needed to keep them out of trouble because they didn't have anything to do over there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now they had a real patient, somebody that really was in pain, instead of reading from the tech manual. You know how we used to do that, when you're over there. And I realized that maybe there's a bigger picture to what's going on than just what I see. Maybe my toothache was a miracle for someone else. Mm-hmm. And that becomes a weird situation to even think about and think through. But there's a bigger picture than just our own. Like the world is way more important than just us, ourselves. But we can only look at it from our own eyes.
Yeah, Augie, I think you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago via text. Like, my plan, my strategy was not where I am today. I didn't anticipate myself being alive past 30. In ROTC, I was like, I'm going to the infantry. My plan was Ranger School deployment. I wanted to go with the 82nd, 101st, something like that. Come back either SFAS or try to get into regiment. That was the course I wanted to take, and I knew what it was going to take, and I knew what I was willing to do for it. And then comes along my wife, and all of a sudden now do I really want to do that? Do I want now I'm making all these literally life-changing decisions that I had spent years preparing for and thinking about. And in a matter of 1 week, I completely changed my trajectory. I went from full on going to, it was running to my death is what it was. Let's just call it what it was. And now it's well, do I really want to do that? Military intelligence, you don't do that. Well, then I have a job when I'm outside. I have a clearance, and I have these, if I'm just in the, I could just be a cop. These are the things I'm telling myself. If I would have went one way, what would I do with my wife and kids when I get out? And then it was oh shit, I'm thinking about something completely different. Then I just, go on a road march and shoot something, and it's all, kind of calms that part down. But, it's just crazy. Where could we be versus where we are, and all those bad things that you had to deal with. I've been asked multiple times, would you do things differently? And my response is always the same: is to do things differently would mean that I would have to be upset with the person I am today in the situation I currently have. And that's not true. I'm happy with the person I am today, and I love the situation that I have. Have you changed one thing in my past? Nothing probably is. It's not what I experienced today. So the bad is almost more important than the good, because the bad's what you remember, and the bad's what keeps you on path to the good.
Amen. 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 The every day's a miracle. This is this is the day the Lord's made. We should rejoice and be glad in it. And thanks, guys. I really appreciate you hanging out with me and talking on the All-American Hour. We've had a blast here with Ranger Nate and Neil Casey, intelligence officer, 101st, and all kinds of great things. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. We'll catch y'all next time on the All-American Hour.
All righty.
Later.
Marshall in the middle.